Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden. We're going to head up towards Halland County for this one, and we're returning to a brewery who have done some very nice beers in my experience, but they're just not all that well known actually. This is going to be beer review number 3 from these guys. So for this one we are going to go to just to the north of Halmstad, and we're having a look at my third beer from Wapnö Gårdbryggeri, and this one is the Zantippa IPA, which comes in at 5.6% ABV. Now, the previous beers that I had from these guys, it was the Alna double IPA and the Bielra single IPA. Both of these were New England style IPAs that turned out to be very, very nice. And this one, going by the looks of it, looks as if it's going to be more of a kind of West Coast style IPA. But the reason that I discovered this brewery was because somebody messaged me through Facebook and said, oh, check out the Alna. That's one of the IPAs that I think is the best in Sweden, and it turned out, you know, to be a beautiful, beautiful beer. So this is one of the things that I really love about doing this YouTube channel. You always get people who are recommending stuff for you to try, which is great. So, you know, do keep the brewery recommendations coming. I think there's like, there must be about 450, 500 breweries in Sweden these days, and I've maybe reviewed like 200 or something, a kind of 200, 250, you know, a generous estimate, something like that. So yeah, do please keep these brewery recommendations coming, because I know there's some really great beers to be discovered out of there. But this brewery was a very, very nice find, and this particular beer was released in the May 2020 Lokalt Osmoskaligt assortment. And the main reason I got this one was I was just like, oh, Wapnö have a new IPA, need to try this one. And it was quite cheap as well. I think this beer was just about 30 kroners or something like this. So yeah, very curious to see what this has in store for us. But a brewery in my experience that do some very nice beers, I would recommend you try the Bielra and the Alna, and we'll see at the end of this video if I recommend this one as well. But hopefully it turns out to be another good beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. A 5.6% IPA, which I think might well turn out to be more like a West Coast IPA. So let's see how we get on with this one then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. This one does have a particularly interesting history. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Wapnö Gårdbryggeri before. No doubt you will see some more beers from these guys reviewed in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Wapnö Gårdbryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Wapnö, as I mentioned to you before, can be found just to the north of Halmstad in Halland County. It's in the southern part of the county. Actually quite a nice city with its red castle and things, but an hour and a half or so to the north of me here in Lund. And this brewery actually comes from an estate that dates back to the 14th century, but the brewery itself was founded just a few years ago in 2016. The first mention of the estate goes back to the year 1379 and the Wapnö Vadstena monastery, and at one stage it was owned by Peter Ribbing, who was the grandson of Saint Birgitta. Later it was actually taken in by the crown in 1410 after the owner Abraham Brodersen Bad was sentenced to death, before it was then given back to his widow in 1419. In the 16th century it belonged to the Norwegian family Urup and then to the Beck family before passing into the hands of Gustav Otto Stenbock in 1661, who was the first Swedish owner since the monastery days. His son Magnus took over the running of the company, and then he ran the estate until his death in 1717. Later though, in 1741, Georg Bogislaus Stale, who was a field marshal and also the county governor of Kalmar, bought part of the Wapnö estate, and then he founded the Kosta Glassworks along with the Småland county governor Anders Koskul. And together they bought the rest of the estate over time, and it stayed in the ownership of the same families since, with the current CEO being Lennart Bengtsson. On the site there is a castle dating from the 18th century, and they've got an ancient runestone as well, which apparently is one of the few in Halland County here in Sweden. But today Wapnö owns the historical site, and they employ around 85 people. On the site there's a dairy, a brewery, a farm shop, a hotel and a restaurant, and the farm has about 2,500 hectares of land and 450 hectares of forest. The farm produces meat, milk and various different crops, and they've also got a biogas plant to run their operations with, and they've won numerous different environmental awards for their activities as well. So a very, very green company actually. These guys are a very, very interesting little company, I should say. Well, little, but 85, 100 employees, whatever it is these days. But as of May 2020, the brewery have produced around 30 different types of beers, and the ones that I've tried so far, the Alna and the Bielra, have both been really quite nice actually, so I would recommend that you have a go at those if you get the chance. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Wapnö Gårdbryggeri just now. As I say, this was a brewery that was recommended to me, and I've had some very good experiences with in the past, so it's nice to have these guys back for the third beer. Hopefully it's not like the case with the difficult third album. I hope this beer turns out to be really quite nice. But yeah, if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a taste of this beer then and see how we go. So as you can see with this one, the artwork is very similar to what you'll find from the other Wapnö beers. It just tends to be this bit of the label tends to be a slightly different colour. You can see they've got different farm products in the kind of background with that. It tells you a little bit about the brewery here and some of their environmental activities. I think you know, it just talks about that they love to make the beer, and you know, they've got their biogas plant and things like that. It just tells you a little bit about some of the details of their environmental activities. But there you can say som all ska smaka, so beer that you like. Beer that you would like to taste, basically. So yeah, nicely presented this one. I do like the Wapnö symbol. Actually, I don't know whether you pronounce it Wapnö or Wapnö. I think when the Swedes say the W, it does kind of sound somewhere in between. But yeah, there you can see it. There is the Wapnö bottle cap on this one. 5.6% ABV IPA this one. So let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. Like I said, released as part of the local and small scale assortment in May of 2020 through Systembolaget, and hopefully it turns out to be a nice beer. Oh, I think, yeah, maybe this one does look as if it's going to be more, yeah, this is definitely a less hazy IPA, this one, compared to the other ones. The other ones were proper big oaty beasts. It says just, yeah, this one is just regular barley malt and hops and yeast in this one, so I think this one probably is intended to be more of a sort of West Coaster rather than anything else. So if you want something a bit more hazy, have a go at the Alna or the Bielra. Those were definitely more New Englandy type beers. But yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured a lovely kind of bright golden colour. You can see there is about a half finger of quite a bumpy white head on this one actually. It's more bumpy than frothy. The bubbles are quite big. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But you know, overall it does look pretty nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a degree of haze to this one, but I think it's more just the fact that it's unfiltered. This is not an oaty or a wheaty leaning beer, this one, so it's not properly hazy, if that makes sense. But yeah, it looks pretty damn nice, I have to say. At 5.6%, this is definitely one of the kind of lower ABV IPAs, but I've noticed that over the last while the ABV of the IPAs has been kind of progressively dropping, and I think, you know, 6.5% seems to be the standard for the New Englands these days, and the West Coasters for some reason seem to be down at the sort of 5.5, 5.8 kind of mark actually. But yeah, nothing too surprising about this beer. Definitely leaning towards the yellowy end of the spectrum, so I'm suspecting this one won't really have any biscuity or caramelly malt in this one, so we'll need to see. But yeah, quite an interesting looking beer, almost the same colour as like a Munich Helles or something like that. Very, very yellow in terms of its colour. You can see the head that's left is the more kind of frothy thing. If we sugar it up, you will get a little bit more froth out of this beer. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. That actually smells very, very nice. The fruitiness that comes out of this is it's great actually. So yeah, straight away with this one, I wonder, is there maybe a bit of Idaho 7 or something in this? Or the fruit, the hoppiness in this is really, really good. It smells very, very sweet and very inviting and juicy actually. Maybe I'm just getting this beer at the perfect time though, right enough. But yeah, we'll focus on the malts and then we'll go on to the fruits. I need a bit of time to consider that. But yeah, it's very bright and very orangey actually. But yeah, on the malty side of things, you can pick up a little bit of that pale malty base in there. It's definitely a kind of straight up kind of white bready malt. There's maybe a little bit of a kind of biscuity quality to this one, but I think the malt base is fairly kind of straight up, very kind of straight edge if you like. Yeah, there's not really any oaty smoothness to it or anything. It's just white bread, a little bit of biscuit in my mind. And on the hoppy side of things, for me, it's definitely got more, a little bit of, it's more got a little bit of kind of earthiness. There's a wee teeny bit of earthiness in there, which makes me wonder, you know, mosaic. But then on the rest of it, the green side of the hops, definitely some nice floral notes. But I think it does lean quite a little bit more towards the grassy side of things. If you take in the aroma quite deeply, you definitely get some of these bigger kind of floral notes out of it. But it's got some nice, kind of grassy notes to it as well. But the fruits that you get out of this are lovely and juicy. Could there be a Zaka that's in this? The juiciness of the hops here seems to be very, very unique and a little bit confusing almost. I like how this, I do like how this all goes together. The aroma of this beer is really very, very nice. Yeah, the aroma with this beer, it's very well balanced between the citrusy side of the fruits and the tropical side of things. I find it very, very kind of orangey and juicy. I do think there's a wee touch of a kind of limey character in there as well, actually. But at the same time, you've definitely got a little bit of these lighter tropical fruits, like a little bit of an apricot, a little bit of a papaya, maybe some mangoes as well. So could it be like a bit of Victoria's Secret and a bit of mosaic or something that's in here? Something like that. Something tells me maybe there's something makes me want to say with the limey notes, could it be a little bit of cashmere? I don't know. This is quite a confusing beer in terms of its fruits, but the aromas that I get out of this, there's a little bit of mango in there. I think the orange, there is quite a bit of a sort of tangerine orangey note to this one. So if it's mango, you know, it could be citra. There's something, I think the statement I made about Idaho 7 earlier, I don't think that's quite right. I think it could be like Victoria's Secret, or I think it's not quite pungent enough to be Galaxy. So I've got a feeling there might be a bit of Victoria's Secret in here. I'm not convinced about Citra, I have to admit. There's something telling me that it might be a bit of Victoria's Secret. I don't think Simcoe, because I don't think the passion fruit is kind of strong enough to be Simcoe. But definitely a good little bit of an orangey note to this one. I don't think it's Amarillo, because it's not oily enough to be Amarillo. I think maybe Mosaic or Azaka. It could be Sabro, actually. That's the other one that we're not talking about, because Sabro has a very, very bright orangey type quality to it. So could it be, I think it might well be Sabro, because the orangey notes in this, they're not too familiar to me. So I wonder if this could be a Sabro IPA. I do. Because that would make sense, to be honest, with the other things, because Sabro's got quite a bit of tropical fruit complexity to it as well. So could this be Sabro? But yeah, there's some lovely juicy orangey notes to this beer. There's definitely a little bit of this kind of mango-y, papaya-y, apricot-y sort of thing. There is something that tells me there's Sabro, but there is a little bit of a kind of zesty note to this one, like a little bit of a kind of limey quality. There could be, but it doesn't have the melons right enough, so I think it's maybe unlikely to be cashmere. There could be a bit of equinaut. The other one would be Malteki, would be from New Zealand. That's the one that gives you a lot of lime from down there. But there's something that tells me this might be Sabro. And these guys I know like to play around with different hops. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have used a bit of Sabro in here, because that's a hop that hasn't really taken hold yet in Europe. I know that there's a number of American breweries playing around with that. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Sabro IPA. As I always say, I like playing guess the hops with these beers, but just to summarise the fruits. Nice, lovely, juicy oranges to this one. A little bit of a kind of slightly limey note underneath, and some lovely kind of apricot-y papaya, lighter tropical notes. and maybe just a wee bit of a juicy kind of mango to the beer as well. But this one, to me, it's very well balanced between, it's got really juicy fruits to it, the malt base is nice and smooth and just a little bit sweet, and then you've got a good little bit of a kind of hoppy quality in this beer as well. So I really like how this one goes together. The aroma is really good on this. I don't know what the name Zantippa means actually, but I tried to Google that and see if there was any significance. Nothing really came up, so we'll just need to taste this beer and take it for what it is. So this one is the Zantippa IPA at 5.6% from Wapnö Gårdbryggeri, just near Halmstad in the southern part of Halland here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål. That's nice. It's not. What I would say about this one is it's not quite as bold as you're going to get from the Alna or the Bielra, but this one, it strikes me as more of a kind of sessionable IPA rather than anything. But I will say it does have a really nice flavour to it. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to Wapnö, you just need to decide what you want. Do you want a nice drinkable beer, or do you want one that's going to be, you know, like me, because I only drink really one beer at a time. And for me, it's it's more about the kind of tasting something a bit mental. So I'd be more likely to pick the Alna just for that reason. But if you want something a little bit more kind of sessionable and different, then this is definitely one that you want to have a go at. This is nice for a lower ABV IPA. I think they've done a good job of this, and I mean this kind of shows you the quality of this brewery. It's a bit of a shame that these guys aren't better known, to be honest with you, because this is a solid for a 5.6% IPA. This is pretty solid, I have to say. So thumbs up to Wapnö Gårdbryggeri again. They've pulled off a nice beer here. But yeah, I definitely like this one. So straight away with this one, in the middle of the palate, you feel a nice kind of pale malty kind of quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. You can feel the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, there is a wee bit of a kind of graininess starts to build there. You can feel the middle of your palate dry out a little bit, and you get more of the graininess as you go towards the back of the back third of your tongue. You definitely get a bit more of a kind of graininess there, but at the same time you do get a slightly thicker bready quality. Also, if you move to the middle part of your palate, you get a nice kind of lighter pale malty note. You get some, in the middle of your palate, you do get a nice little bit of kind of sweet malt there. It's kind of, there is a wee bit of a caramel to it, but at the same time, it's quite like, it's quite biscuity, Vitti's digestive kind of syrupy kind of thing. So you do get a little bit of that. Very centre of your palate is a little bit caramelly. As you move further out from that, you get a little bit more biscuity, and then underneath it's definitely a kind of straight up sort of pale malty quality. But the sweetness, I think, does push its way out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, which is nice. So yeah, I like how everything kind of pieces together in this beer. It is pretty damn solidly done, I have to say. The malt base and the backbone that the beer has is good. It's not, obviously it's not kind of big and sweet and caramelly as you would expect from a full-on West Coast IPA, but I think this beer does have a little bit more bitterness to it than the New Englands and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that in a little minute. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there is a wee bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you can feel there is some nice floral aromaticity to it. It almost does have a little bit of that, like a sort of minty freshness to it. It's almost just got a little bit of a zestiness to it, particularly around the kind of front of the palate there, which is interesting. Yeah, if I remember rightly, Sabro can give you a very kind of fresh, sort of zesty, floral and grassy kind of character. So I really like how all of that pieces together. But yeah, on the front corners of the palate, there's definitely a nice little bit of a kind of spicy note to it. It's definitely got a bit of that kind of minty freshness. Then around the very front curve of the palate, it's got a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy note to it, but at the same time you can feel a little bit of that sort of citrusy, zesty quality in there as well. But behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble, where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. So yeah, I do like how this one, I do like how all of this, how this pushes together actually. It's very, very solid in terms of its very solid in terms of the different kind of flavour profiles and things like that that it has. So, you know, thumbs up for the malt base and for the green side of the hops in this. Let's focus on that fruity side of things then. So as I always say, behind the front curve of the palate, that's where those juicy fruity esters start to roll out of the beer. So for me, yeah, if you go towards the back of that palate, you might get just a little touch of a kind of passion fruity note or something there. It's very small actually though, because the beer, if you pay attention to that front third of your tongue, you can feel there's a bit of that darker tropical fruit there, but you can feel the kind of oiliness just kind of creeping forward, and then that's where you start to get more of these lovely kind of oily, juicy oranges out of the thing. So it's more of I do wonder if it's Sabro that's in this. It really is, because the orangey notes are very distinctive, but at the same time the sort of vibe that the orange gives me is not overly familiar. Could it be Victoria's Secret and Sabro that is the hot pairing in this one? Something tells me it might be. But yeah, the back of that, but there is a wee bit of that darker passion fruit, but then very quickly it starts to lean towards that nice kind of oily, orangey kind of thing, and then as you move further forward onto the kind of edge of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty type quality to this beer, and you do get a little bit. There is almost just a wee bit of a kind of lemon-limey type quality there on the kind of front edge of the tongue as well. Could there be a bit of Centennial or a little bit of Equinut or even Maltiki or things like that down there actually? So this one I think it's a really nice beer, this actually, in terms of it is definitely more like a West Coaster. It's not quite as sweet and caramelly as you're going to get from some of the American ones, but it's definitely a little bit more like a West Coaster in a lot of its characteristics. It's not kind of smooth and creamy, it is one of these more oily, juicy and fruity IPAs with a little bit of bitter dankness in there. So I like how this one all goes together. So big thumbs up to Wapnö Gårdbryggeri for me. Fire Brigade are away out again. But yeah, this one is a solid beer, so big thumbs up once again to Wapnö Gårdbryggeri. If you like a kind of more bitter, orangey leaning IPA, as I do, then I think this is one that's going to tick the boxes for you. In terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, it's a mid-bodied beer. The carbonation is very smooth. It leans towards the kind of oily end of the spectrum. Good little bit of hoppy bitterness. I think this one might be about 50 IBUs, something like that. Definitely more than the kind of typical New England sort of thing. I think about 50 IBUs to this beer. It's not obviously, people aren't used to the high IBUs like the 80s and things that you used to get with the green flashes, the torpedoes, and some of the earlier stone stuff. You're not quite getting the same high bitterness that you used to with these more West Coast leaning IPAs. But yeah, but 50 IBUs. The malt base, like I say, is mainly quite smooth, but you have got a degree of sweetness there in the middle third of your palate, and you've got some really nice juicy, oily, fruity characters coming out of this one. So yeah, I like how this beer goes together, and it gets a thumbs up from me. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. It'd be cool to see them do a slightly more adventurous West Coast IPA, because they've obviously got the capability to do these things as well. So I'd like to see like a proper go, an Alna type go, if you like, at West Coast IPA from these guys, because I think they seem to be a very capable brewery, so it'd be cool to try a few different styles from them. I know that they've got stouts and things as well, so probably my next review should be something from the dark end of the spectrum, but I don't think the stouts and stuff are in Systembolaget actually, so I don't know how I would get a hold of those, but I'd love to try one of their stouts over the next little while, because I think they do an Imperial and they do a regular stout, so hopefully I can get a hold of one of those at some point and review that for you. That would be awesome. But yeah, we'll need to see what our next review is from Wapnö Gårdbryggeri, but I thought this would be really nice to review for you, and I certainly have enjoyed it. So yeah, awesome. Let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Zantippa IPA at 5.6% ABV, a lovely orangey leaning and slightly more bitter IPA, which I think turned out very, very nicely. Let's leave it at that. Until the next time, Slanger just now, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Wapnö Gårdbryggeri as well. Keep your brewery recommendations coming, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slanger, skål, cheers.